Chad Snowden, who is in collaborates with Levon Jones. How you doing today, Chad Snowden?
It's good to be here. I appreciate this opportunity to actually communicate everything that's been happening. As my connection to Levon Jones, all that building, and it's very iconic. And I learned that Levon was the one who designed it, and at first I didn't believe it. But how it all took place was I was working for the court system, the unified court system of New York here in Rochester for the county of Monroe. It's an interesting story, even how I started working for the court system. So they had the civil service exam back in 2017. About 17,000 people took that exam, and I scored 10th in the state. And that's actually the first time that I realized that I wasn't dumb. I wasn't less than. How I met Levon was at the courthouse. I didn't know him previous to that. And I was working in the back room. I was a clerical assistant. And I saw this familiar looking person at the counter. And during the course of a day at the clerical assistant position at Rochester, you will see people come in and they're full of emotion because you're only going to the court in the first place if there's some sort of injustice that you face. But there was something different about the passion that I saw leaking from Levon when he was trying to get his paperwork in to be heard. And I was actually having kind of one of those days where I was having a hard time processing things because as I'm looking there, I've always had a passion for social issues, but I'm looking at how the court system organizes information. And the basis of that was race. And the thing that bothered me was in the categorization of race, whites could be considered Hispanic or Latino. What I mean by that is this: the court system uses race, and I think the technical definition of it is your actual skin tone. So what they were doing were they were padding, and this is back when marijuana was legal, and so they were trying to address how do we basically let all of these non-violent people that we put in jail, black people, off for these marijuana charges. And they first started this campaign of giving people statistics that, oh, we're not just putting blacks in jail for marijuana. The white population is X, Y, and Z. When I dug deep from the inside of the courthouse, what I found is that the majority of whites that were also put in jail for marijuana charges were not white at all. They were Hispanic, Latino. So anyways, as I'm hearing Levon try to get his paperwork in, and my co-worker at the time kind of taking that disposition where this is kind of a big claim, which it really was. The claim itself was how to start the process of putting forth the claim that I designed this building. I didn't really care for what I saw as far as my co-worker, her disposition towards getting the paperwork started. And so I decided I said, I'm gonna go downstairs and get a drink. And if I happen to see him again, then I know that we're supposed to meet. And so I went outside my office and I went down to go to the elevator. And by that time, Levon had also finished doing what he had to do. And sure enough, we met on the elevator. And I had this moment where it's just like time stopped in my head. I said, okay, I put the spirit to the test. And the spirit put me right in the same elevator. It's just Levon and I in the elevator. And that's when we began our conversation to get to know each other. My first reaction was like, whoa, this happened a long time ago. There's probably a statute of limitations. I what took so long for him to say something? And then I also had the classic reaction, kind of like, oh, this is someone who probably might be down on their luck, and maybe there's some truth to it, but maybe it's more of a he's seeking the money type thing. So I was skeptical as well, because you see all sorts of things when you come into the courthouse. Again, it's that place of last resort where you're not going to the courthouse unless you actually had something that has not been dealt with, a major injustice. But I was very skeptical, but at the same time, I was looking at his composure, and more than what I could see, I felt something. Something was true about how he was presenting it, and you can tell that he was in control of the damage that he has been going through. And then I'm also observing that, like, he didn't come with anybody. He came by himself. And so my thought process was going from the time that this happened, him as a 9-year-old person, and then me guessing what age he is now, and saying, wow, he's been trying to get justice for a long time, and here he is, he got this far. He's at the right place. And so I respected that. And I'm also thinking back to how I felt when I first took that civil service exam, and thinking that, you know, I don't know how to do this. And so there was a connection between that feeling of you're trying to do the right thing, you're trying to follow the process, and you are looking for somebody to listen. So that was my initial thoughts on him. Now the elevator conversation, that was divine. I really don't know any other word, and I say that because I find out that he's from Mississippi. Me, I consider myself a sort of a mutt, if you will. I was born in Michigan, came to Rochester when I was 4, and then I stayed in Rochester until I joined the military at around 20 or something. Left Rochester for 20-something years, came back, and then boom, now I'm here. But my mother being from Mississippi, him being from Mississippi, I often think about the journey of why I came or how I landed to Rochester. And for me, to make sense of things, I realized that nothing is happening by happenstance. It's being placed and unfolded. So him being from Mississippi, and then we kind of bonded off of that. You know, my mom's from Mississippi. I asked him how he got here. You know, what led to him being here. And so he told me the story about how his mother took him and his family and moved him to Rochester, because Rochester was actually trying to attract certain people to come to Rochester for economic opportunity.
Very industrial.
Yes, for economic opportunity. And to me, I'm like, out of all the places, why Rochester still? But nonetheless, after he told me that, he told me his mom hadn't finished the education system where she was literate. And I say that with fragile verbiage, if you will, because that has a big part to play. But nonetheless, it seemed as though the information and assumptions and prejudgments were that's what he had to deal with from day one. But in the move up here, Levon was telling me he went to school, Rochester schools, and he was kind of telling me that was during the time of the Rochester riots. We're talking like the 60s, 1960s. Now me, bouncing back to just my passion, and the reason why I left Rochester in the first place and joined the military, there was a lot of violence here.
Well, so this is a very interesting and intriguing conversation. But there's one question I do want to ask you in regards to this case and everything that's going on with Levon Jones. What do you think is the end game for this case? Do you think Levon Jones is going to receive justice for this? What is the next step you think in regards to this case?
I don't know what emotion to put behind this, but I think that the justice that Levon will receive, he's already received it. He's received it in the form of the connections that he's made and everybody who hears this story. Because the people who are in charge of administering justice, that system needs to be purged and burned like the Canadian fires that they're saying are clouding the skies. Like, that is what needs to happen. And so the justice will come in the form of unity amongst the community of where it all started. The city of Rochester first, the educational systems, because that is the other part of what he talked about. After he gets the drawing back, the other part that he talked about is reinvesting in the community, particularly having programs that highlight the intellectual genius that is possessed within our youth of our race. And so I think that's what justice is going to look like for Levon. I also feel that it is coming very, very soon. What I find is unique because there was paperwork that had his remedy, what he wanted from all of this. And he described some programs in there and different structures of meeting. And the thing that is still kind of baffling to me is I'm catching these news articles for a different reason. That exact same remedy is happening, but in his paperwork, Levon stated that he would be a part of those meetings. Those same things are happening, just without him being a part of it. I say all that to say that justice is already happening. Rochester is already changing. But just like you put in that legal paperwork and it takes time to hear a response back, I don't know how long the transition is going to take. And so in the meanwhile, the name of the game is to build awareness. Build awareness, share the intellect, because we all have different, there is something special about the black community, point blank period. And that is probably the number one thing.
That's the catch.
That's the injustice. Since the inception of this country in 1776, and we adopted this Roman legal system, the ultimate injustice has been to
keep us from knowing who we are.
Yes, who we are. And who we are is meaning what is our unique capability? What can we tap into? Our creative solutions to these same problems. But that there is a cloud that can't be stopped. There's a movement, and the only thing that has to happen is connection.
Absolutely.
Connection where someone who has the ability to architect something in their head, and then someone who has the presence, the stage presence to present it to a community. You connect those two people together, you have something emerging that has evolved past anything that can stop it. It's one thing to try to sit at someone else's table, but it's a whole other thing when you make your own table. I see Levon making his table, and with every person that voices conversations around this, they're sitting at this new table. Yes, it was made by one person, but it's one of those round tables where it's all equals. And so no longer it's changing minds, but more so it's tapping into hearts. And it's paving a new way. It is creating a new form of intelligence, of social intelligence, in a place where justice is the norm.
Yes.
That's it.
Because we are strong African American men. So creating a system to keep us out of the home is forcing our men to grow up not knowing how to control our emotions.
Yes.
So when you create a system for our men to not know how to control our emotions, then we're falling victim to every single thing that's out there, because we already have to be born on earth fighting both ends of the stick.
Yes.
So keeping that man away with his intelligence, with his knowledge, with his strength, right? That is the catch.
Yes.
And it took me to 27 to get to this point.
39. You ahead of the game.
Also, just did a dope interview with Chad Snowden, addressing just the big case concerning Levon Jones and his design that he designed when he was 9 years old. There's a lot of history and a lot of stuff that is being put under the rug in regards to this information. And what we're trying to do is bring a tremendous amount of light to this situation. Anything you gonna say, Chad?
Just appreciate the opportunity, building. It's beginning.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm